Nation. It's the Outlaw John Rocha here with my non-spoiler review for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, this new film here in Phase 4 of the MCU. This one directed by Sam Raimi. That's right, the legendary Sam Raimi, who brought us Spider-Man 1 and 2, Darkman, the Evil Dead series, The Quick and the Dead. You know, I love that as the Outlaw. And even Oz the Great and Powerful. I've seen some people defend that film as a film that they thoroughly enjoy. This one is also written by Michael Waldron, who brought us Loki. Many of you Marvel fans love Loki, and it's number one for me on the Disney Plus Marvel TV shows. I love that series, and he also wrote on Rick and Morty. And this one sees the return of Benedict Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange, Elizabeth Olsen as Wanda Maximoff, Benedict Wong as Wong, Rachel McAdams as Christine Chiwetel, Ejiofor as Mordo, Michael Stühlbarg, and it introduces Xochitl Gomez as America Chavez, and there's a host of other actors in cameos that I will not spoil since this is a non-spoiler review. The basic synopsis of the movie is this: Strange travels into the multiverse to protect America Chavez, who can traverse the multiverse on her own, but is being pursued by an evil entity who wants to take the powers from America Chavez for their own personal agenda. And I'll say this overall. For me, the film was a disappointing entry into the MCU. I certainly expected this film to be much more complex, much more layered, much more nuanced, and unfortunately, it fell short of all those expectations. It's a much more simplistic approach to these very complex issues, and we've spent numerous movies and numerous TV series getting to know both Doctor Strange and Wanda Maximoff and seeing their own emotional journeys. And unfortunately, I feel like the film falls short overall in delivering that emotional bang and wallop that you wanted to see from both of these characters. Now, there are some things that I did enjoy, and the number one thing is acting. Certainly, Elizabeth Olsen is superb here. If you enjoyed her in WandaVision, you're going to enjoy her even more here. She brings so much pain, complexity, and true terror to her Wanda Maximoff that she absolutely carries this movie. In particular, there are a couple of scenes where she meets other versions of herself, other versions of her kids, and the work done here in those scenes will absolutely break your heart and horrify you as well. Benedict Cumberbatch, as good as ever as Stephen Strange, cocky, egotistical, funny, and frustratingly right, much to the chagrin of most people in the MCU. Benedict Wong does a great job yet again as Wong. He gets more screen time here. We get to see him lead and command in certain sequences, and that's fun to see from Benedict Wong. Chiwetel Ejiofor, just as solid as ever as Mordo. Certainly the back and forth with him and Benedict Cumberbatch is a highlight of the movie, and fun to see that their chemistry is still there from the original Doctor Strange film. Rachel McAdams does get more to do here as Christine, and she's as solid as ever. I love Rachel McAdams as an actress. It's just that I don't know that what they gave her to do was essentially that important as we're going to get with Thor: Love and Thunder with Jane Foster, where they're making her a central part of the movie. I didn't feel that way with Christine, unfortunately. But Xochitl Gomez is who a lot of people are going to have their eye on here as they watch this movie, as a new actress, a new character in the MCU. And she is okay to good in the role for a majority of the film. You certainly want to root for her from the beginning. She certainly has the charm and the energy and the charisma of a young person coming into the MCU. And she holds her own with these more established actors and gives as good as she gets. Another thing I enjoyed here about the movie are the visuals. They are absolutely incredible. Look, it's certainly signature Sam Raimi, and all you lovers of his peculiar brand of goofy horror, and it is goofy horror, will enjoy what he does here. The visuals themselves, the colors, the dynamics of those visuals are pretty incredible to witness. Certainly there are sequences when they're traversing the when the characters are traversing the multiverse that deserve special praise and attention for their inventiveness, the colors, the uniqueness in terms of their design and their approach. Also, there's a battle of musical notes that will have you smiling while it's happening. Look out for that in the movie. And the nightmare sequences, I think, are very well laid out, very well constructed. Certainly the mood and the energy is there that you need to feel for a nightmare sequence. Also, Danny Elfman's score here is a positive in the movie. I was initially not the hugest fan of it, but as I sat with it over the last couple of days, I did find myself rethinking the score and enjoying what he is doing to bring the emotions of the movie out in certain scenes, even if the script isn't necessarily living up to those moments. The music underscoring those moments certainly does. And as I mentioned, my issues with the script here not living up to Danny Elfman's score is one of the reasons that I didn't like the movie. And let's get into that. It's just too simplistic for what it's pointing out. I mean, I loved what Michael Waldron did with Loki. It was gutsy, challenging, fun, and it pushed the boundaries of what we were expecting to see in a Marvel show. That's why it's still my favorite of all the Disney Plus Marvel shows. But what the script does here is shocking, but in the worst ways. What Michael Waldron's script does with its two main female characters is insulting and patronizing. I was really let down by the decisions he made with both of those characters, both on their journeys and then the resolution of their journeys. It was incredibly frustrating to watch on so many levels, and I start to attach a little bit of how he handled the character of Sylvie in Loki, and I'm starting to see a pattern of how Waldron views women in his movies or in his TV shows, both, and that's the frustrating part of this. Is there a pattern developing here that needs to be addressed at some point? Also, the America Chavez they give us here in the movie is not the America Chavez from the comics. It's as good as Xochitl Gomez is in the role, and she is, as I said, okay to good. There's a lot more here that could have been explored and that isn't explored here, and there's an LGBTQ plus moment here that completely gets brushed aside yet again in a Marvel film under Disney control, which is super frustrating for me. And it felt like they wanted her to be a damsel in distress and off balance the whole time so that they could create room for Wanda and Steven to shine. And what they do with her in the finale, which I won't spoil, was an absolute letdown for me. Another thing I didn't like is those cameos. As much as I enjoyed seeing these characters come in, these actors come in to play these cameos, and there are a couple of pretty awesome, shocking cameos, certainly one that was teased in the trailer. Once the initial joy and coolness of those cameos wears off, what they did with those cameos was utterly disappointing. And again, the worst of Sam Raimi, who loves to default into goofy, brutal horror, comes to play here, and I just did not enjoy that at all. So in the end, my overall thoughts on Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness is that it is a disappointing entry into the MCU. What I feared about Sam Raimi directing this movie came true. He brought his stuck-in-the-past 1990s approach to a 2022 film, and it's irritatingly out of step with what the Marvel Universe has created. He brings the worst of the 1970s schlock horror here, complete with cheesy dialogue from Michael Waldron and plausible storylines for these characters, and betrays the Marvel characters within his movie. There will be those Raimi fans who will defend it and use the old excuse of that we, quote, just don't get it, but there's frighteningly little to get here, including an insultingly tiny backstory for one of the main characters of color, as I mentioned, America Chavez. Now, there are some visually stunning moments and incredible effects, of course. Also, Elizabeth Olsen is at the top of her game, and the cameos and surprises are great moments initially in the movie for any Marvel fan, but it's all just not enough to save this movie, which left me feeling very empty afterwards and hoping a better director is brought in to bring out the best elements that a Doctor Strange movie can possess. Go see the movie, see what you think of it. Let me know what you thought of it in the comments section below. Let me know what you thought of my criticisms in the comments section below as well. Hit a like on this video and share it on your social medias. When you share it on your social media, telling your friends and family, hey, the Outlaw Nation is a cool place to come and enjoy some content here. All right, y'all take care of yourselves. Be well, and I'll talk to you next time with another brand new review here from the Outlaw Nation.